is on the right, so the wave and tide climate around the UK, and we have quite a diverse environment. So our tidal range, our astronomic tidal range, is from around 1 meters up to over 14 meters in the Severn Estuary, and obviously we've got wind waves all the way around the coast, but also we've got swell waves where the country pokes out into the Atlantic Ocean, so we're exposed to swell waves, which is where the study site is, the black ellipses. In the UK, we have shoreline management plans that manage set out management of the coast around England and Wales. Around 50% of our coast has a hold the line policy, so that's with coastal defence structures of some description, and the other 50% or so is just allowing nature to do its own thing, or around managed realignment, so working with nature. We have a challenge in the UK in that we've got about 10 million properties at coastal flood risk and erosion risk, and about 50% of them are in small communities that are dispersed. So quite difficult as regards the funding for doing equivalent to communities. With the economic rules that we have in the UK, you just wouldn't get government funding to protect those communities. So in light of that, a few years ago, our government set out a new policy and strategy, which is looking more at coastal adaptation to help set out a pathway for how we can adapt these dispersed small communities in more challenging locations. So this is a national pilot project I'm going to talk about. It came out of some of the DEFRA innovation funds for coastal management. It's focused on three main things. Well, the first main thing is to make the step change in how we communicate coastal change with communities, because in the past that hasn't been done well. It's a really hard thing to do. There's a few other aspects around combining the flooding and erosion risks on the coast in a more intelligent manner, and I'll touch on that a little bit. But a large part of the work is around how can we enable a more intelligent, mature discussion with communities, so not making assumptions with how they want to be talked with, that kind of thing, but making it more of a level playing field. And we developed visualizations of coastal change to help that communication on an online platform, which I'll demo. So zooming into view a little bit, the two images on the slide here, the one on the left shows the vertical difference between a 1 year and 100-year tide level around the UK. This is something that particularly the aim of the project, which is for fan out the work, which is quite interesting. And the areas that have got black, so they've got very small vertical difference, it's only about half a metre between a 1 year tide level and a 100-year tide event. If you apply climate change to that, the image on the right shows you what a 100-year event would be by the 2050s under a particular climate change scenario. And for those particularly sensitive locations like Bute, mainly around the North Cornwall coast, what would be a 100-year event now would be an annual event in the 2050s. So really challenges, really swift pace of change for these communities. And that, I won't get into too much of the detail of the complexities of the wave and tide climate. We have got infragravity waves as well as the usual swollen waves. And that has a fundamental impact on everything that flows around managing risks in the community. Just touching on the social context for Bute, this is the town of Bute. It's quite a constrained environment. We've got big sediment beaches, we've got cliffs, we've got sandy dunes and beaches, and we've got quite a lot of community infrastructure in and around that. And this is a community that is really focused on the coast. They love their coast. And they've got active long-form focus groups that we engage with. So this is just an example of some of the challenges that the Bute has got. This is common around the UK in many places. There's some storms that happened just over a decade ago. got hit repeatedly over the winter. So we had wave overtopping and flooding into the town, damage to the gyms and the beach and the promenade and some beach huts and other infrastructure. So just touching on the modelling approach, this is almost what you're going to get in the slides. But so we had a multivariate wave, tide and wind data set that was transformed to the nearshore using Swan software. So that's generated in previous work. And we combined that with some historic trends analysis we looked at. There's an awful lot of coastal monitoring that goes on around the UK coast. We've got lots of information on beach profiles, beach volumes, that kind of thing. So you can work up your historic trends analysis for how beach volume changes with different storms. We had some empirical modelling work that we did looking at how dunes would respond to storms, particularly. So I was using the Laguna type models. And then we pushed all those through into a standard wave over topic. I've got up equations, so Eurotop empirical equations or neural networks. Brought in the infragravity wave aspect and pushed that all through into a two-flow inundation model to predict what the flooding would be into the town of Butte. And then you can take that all the way around and apply climate change if things get worse. So these are reasonably standard outputs. You've probably seen similar things like this before. So the top left is a diagram of some of the historic trends analysis. Top right is some dune erosion profiles on the different storms over time. The bottom right is wave overtopping extremes curves drawn out of the Eurotop analysis. And then you can push that all through into the inundation model, and you get flooding into the town of Butte. This is something that we all look at images like this the whole time. For the general public, this is really, really difficult to understand. So we were interested in how could we turn that information into something that the general public, community stakeholders could understand easily and level the playing field a bit. So we did a really interesting piece of around stakeholders. So as well as coastal engineers with a lot of engagement experience, and our team also have engagement specialists and software developers, and they just have a different mindset to us. Our training is all around defining problems, solving problems, whereas they're much more interested in communities, the users, people. It's just a different mindset. So I would recommend bringing those kinds of people into these kind of projects whenever you can. So we went through a process of defining particular groups of stakeholders. We call them personas, and what their particular interests might be to really understand what was important to them. What do we need to be communicating with them? We tested those with focus groups that were focus groups already present in the community. So we had a ready group to go, so that was really good. And they gave feedback on there. And then one of the particular things is we looked at what kind of visualizations of coastal change would the community like to see, what be useful for them. So this is a summary of some of the types of vehicles we indicated that we could develop. So you've got things going from artistic sketches, engineering drawings, but it's quite clear from some questionnaire feedback that we have from the community and focus groups that they wanted photorealistic images with annotated information. So I've got a video that hopefully will work. Yeah. So this is the online platform we developed. There's a landing page. You've got different topic and geographic areas you can look at. This is the sandy dune and beach in the present day compared to the future, 2040s in this case, and you can see the predicted erosion. This is low tide. Then you can ramp it up to mean high water springs. And these visualizations, they are all directly based on the modelling analysis. We didn't make stuff up. We've taken 2-meter cross sections along the frontage. and pushed it into this blend and unity development model. And then you've got a map-based piece of information as well, where the public can drop in and choose particular areas of interest. And what we wanted to do was to pick up on the whole story of how coastal management occurs. So we had pages on monitoring, on the science, on the policy framework, which is really important for really trying hard to understand. And particularly also on the uncertainties around some of the coastal change predictions. And that's one of the challenges. We haven't really that piece off. We ran out of time and budget to look at that more. So I think one of the things is that these visualizations are really powerful. They turned out to be really powerful, which is great. It means here really get what the issue is, but they're very deterministic. So I think we need to work out how to better show some of the uncertainty around some of the predictions. Oh, is it going around again? So, and this is just a summary of the visualizations, just for context, and you can see the situation getting progressively depressing through to the tanks. It's been, as you know, June left. So some conclusions from that. This wasn't the particular aim of the study, but there were some particularly interesting things that I mentioned around how sensitive this location, the Union Cornwall, is to climate change. And we've got that mapped all the way around the UK now, so you can see where the particular hotspots are. That's not the only driver of challenges on the coast, but it's one. Quite clear from the modelling approach we took, this combined positive feedback issue with as you have more erosion, you have more flooding, more wave overtopping, and if you suddenly lose the dunes, then you get new parts of the coast to wave overtopping as well. And that's not commonly modelled, at least in the UK, doing that in a combined way. The approach to stakeholder engagement was really great. It really paid dividends. It made a splash in the national news. This is a small community of only about 10,000 people. The work we did with them made it BBC News website. So it really brought it to national attention. It also did about £9 million worth of further funding for the community. Not just because of this project, but other things as well going on. But this was part of it. And whilst that may not sound like an awful lot for a small community, but it enabled them to make some initial adaptation steps for their community. So lifeguard buildings and that kind of thing, changing practices. We're rolling out this approach now more generally in the UK, looking at how we can engage with part of the community that don't necessarily have much of a voice, and don't get engaged with much. Children, young people are going to be the ones who are going to be living with some of the biggest changes we're going to see in the future. And so Minecraft is meant to deal with that. Yeah, I'll let you know. Thank you.